that the essence of the gospel is that Jesus enters into the world, not to maintain the status quo, not to preserve things the way that they are, not to simply keep things running according to the same order, according to the same form. No, Jesus enters in to all of these schemes, these social constructs, these social orders, and he utterly and completely disrupts them. He utterly and completely deconstructs them to the point where people are liberated from their bondage to those schemes, to those orders. Jesus creates something entirely new that we are liberated to inhabit freely and creatively as created beings. And Sola calls that the gospel. I think that is an incredibly apt description of what it means to be a creative person. To enter into the world and see it as something that still has yet to be formed and still has yet to, by the power of the Spirit of God, transformed for something good. And I think that builds incredible resilience in us as we become people who are able to be creative in that way. One of my favorite things about the fact that we can see Jesus as a creative person is that it unleashes in us all kinds of possibilities for being creative. Oftentimes when we think about people being creative, we think about very traditional art forms like drawing or painting, or maybe we think of filmmakers, or maybe we think of authors. But there are as many different ways of being creative as there are people in this world. And you, as a created person of God, are creative in your own way. Our joyful, wonderful opportunity is to learn how God has called us to be creative and therefore transform the world for good. Today, as we end, I want to encourage you to spend time this week reflecting on how God has called you to be creative. Maybe you're very comfortable with the idea of being creative. Maybe you have very specific creative activities that you engage in. This week, I want to encourage you, if you're feeling stressed and anxious and overburdened and overwhelmed by what's happening in the world, I want to encourage you to engage in those creative activities. And as you do, pay attention to how God is inspiring you, how God is liberating you, and how God is helping you to transform the world for the better.